Welcome, everybody. We're going to do a quick webinar here, recorded webinar for the UCC Solar Group. I'm Jerome Garciano. I'm at the law firm of Polsinelli, and I focus a lot of my practice around tax credits related to economic development and energy. So today's topic is the Low Income Community Bonus Credit Program. If your church is looking at, for example, doing a solar project on the rooftop or some other solar project, we definitely want you to know about this 30-day window that is quickly approaching in terms of applications. So just wanted to first introduce our speakers. Again, Jerome Garciano. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, and have been researching and taking advantage of a lot of the energy incentives for solar and renewable energy, as well as trying to help churches, connect with these economic development tools. Rebecca, you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Thanks, Jerome. I'm Rebecca Pereira. I'm Chief Credit Officer for the United Church of Christ Cornerstone Fund. We are a church extension fund, a lender for the UCC. We will lend outside the denomination as well. And we've done a ton of solar lending recently and have worked with Jerome quite a bit in other types of informational sessions here. So happy to be back again.
All right. I just want to start off introducing the Inflation Reduction Act. I know there was a prior webinar we did a few months back, but essentially the biggest investment in our country in terms of clean energy and climate change policy, a lot of new tax credits. The investment tax credit, which is the focus of this presentation, has undergone a lot of changes, which we won't go through on, but a lot of the bonuses, like the one that we are talking about today, could really have a good financial impact for your project. So typically you'll see a 30% tax credit, but that can be increased to a 40, 50, maybe even 70% tax credit if you find that you qualify for all the bonuses. And then the other big change, particular to churches, is that nonprofits can now get a cash refund, which we'll talk a little bit about. So even if the project owner does not pay taxes because they're a nonprofit, you can actually just get a cash refund in the value of the credits. So for today, we are going to focus on preparing for this application. Again, the environmental justice bonus is really focused on the investment tax credits and the particular technologies that it supports are solar and wind. So if you have a solar or wind project that you're looking at and it qualifies for one of the categories of this environmental justice bonus, you should look at preparing an application because the application portal is open today. I'm going to go through the different timelines and the different processes, but I want Rebecca to start just providing an overview of the UCC support, as well as inviting Brooks to talk about some of the resources as available to the UCC churches.
Yeah, so I'll start. We'll go a little bit out of order, and let's talk about the Cornerstone Fund first, and then get to what generally the UCC has been doing to support these projects. So the Cornerstone Fund essentially is a lender charged with lending to churches for projects that they need to do that might be a little bit hard to fund through a bank. We consider energy projects to be a mission focus for us, so we are doing a lot of them. The Cornerstone Fund receives its source of funds from investors, which are either institutions like churches or other religious nonprofits, or individuals associated with the UCC in some way. And what our investments are essentially similar to CDs at a bank. They're called term notes. And so fixed income, a certain amount of time you've committed to keeping your funds with us and you get a certain rate of return. We turn around and lend those funds out to churches to do these kind of projects and many others. But the energy projects are very important right now. We've done a lot of solar lending recently. We were doing it even before the IRA came along, early got things going very fast, but we are fielding lots and lots of calls from churches right now who are interested in accessing this IRA benefit and getting solar on their buildings. But in addition to that, we've seen a lot of churches who are interested in these add-ons, which is what we're talking about today. The national setting, particularly our colleague here, Brooks Barrett, who's the Minister of Environmental Justice, who will take over here in just a second, has put together a wonderful resource webpage for the UCC, accessible to everybody and would be beneficial to any church or nonprofit who wants to look at going solar. So I'll let you talk about that, Brooks.
Sure. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Jerome. The UCC has recently launched a website for helping churches to go solar. And on this webpage, you'll find a number of things. First, just information about why it makes so much financial sense for churches to go solar right now and why it aligns so clearly with our mission and purpose as churches. You also will find kind of some basic explanations for how these government incentives work, how one gets paid. You'll also find information about, financing through the Cornerstone Fund. You'll also find things on there kind of explaining what does it mean to have a no-cost solar approach where you're not paying upfront for having solar installed on your property. You also find just a wide range of resources with everything from like websites that will help you find potentially state incentives as well to go along with these federal incentives. There's even a grant program out there. And we also have resources for liturgy when you finally get those solar panels installed and you want to celebrate it, let the public know. We've got resources for that. So there's a lot there, and including with all of that, we also have some maps to find out if you are in some of these areas that get extra bonuses and incentives. And so that's all there at www.ucc.org/going solar. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brooks. So I'm gonna just quickly go through some of the highlights for, again, this bonus application for the environmental justice low-income communities bonus. Again, very basically, there are two types of bonuses, a 10% bonus or a 20% bonus. And each of these categories have a limit in terms of how many awards they can give for these bonus credits. So what the IRS has done, Department of Energy has done, is create a competitive application process for projects that want to access these bonus because, again, there's a limited amount. So this slide just shows the timeline. They did open up the portal last Thursday. So this was on October 19th. And so that is the first day of the application period. There's going to be an initial 30-day application period. And then the last day of that 30-day application period is on November 18th. And all the submissions, all the applications submitted during that 30-day window are going to be treated as being submitted all at the same time. So everybody gets a fair chance of getting this. But if the allocation is oversubscribed in that 30-day window, they essentially aren't going to accept any more applications after that 30-day period, and they're going to have a lottery of the submitted applications to actually select the winners of that application. If the category is not oversubscribed at the end of a 30-day window, then they will continue to accept applications, and then it's on a first come first served basis in terms of the different categories. There's going to be a lottery, like I said, after the first 30-day window if it's oversubscribed, and then hopefully before the end of the year, these award letters for these bonuses are going to start to be issued by the IRS. So basically, the process, you should confirm that your project qualifies. There are certain categories and subcategories, as I mentioned earlier. Category 1 is if your project is in a low-income census tract, a low-income community that's essentially aligned with the New Markets Tax Credit Census Tract. There's Category 2 if you're on Indian or tribal land. Category 3 is if you are on affordable housing and you are selling power at a discount to the residents. And Category 4 is if you are doing some type of community solar project that has economic benefit to low-income households. So you need to confirm which category you're applying, make sure your project qualifies. There's also other limits like a 5 megawatt limit. You can't have like really, really large projects apply for this if they're really looking at smaller projects. But as I mentioned, there is this review, lottery, and then the allocation process. Once you get the letter, you actually have 4 years in terms of placing your project in service, meaning completing your project. So you don't have to complete your project immediately. You actually do have 4 years, but very important, you cannot place your project in service before you get the award allocation for the bonus, because that actually disqualifies you from getting the bonus. They are only going to award projects that aren't placed in service yet. But again, once you get the award, you have 4 years to finish your project. There are still some kind of capacity limitations in terms of, what would the agency do in terms of if there's not enough applications? I'd be curious to see kind of how that goes. In terms of the technical requirements, there is this application portal that is open. You can see the website there. In order to apply, you actually need a login.gov account, which is a kind of a secured kind of two-factor authentication type of platform from the federal government. So you actually need an account to complete an application. They are going to have a dashboard called the capacity dashboard that basically keeps track of how much allocation is left in each category. So I think that'd be good to know. So if you're applying for a category that's not oversubscribed, you can kind of see how much is left on a real-time basis. There's some other kind of technical requirements about multiple accounts, but really all that gets answered in kind of the portal that you need to use to submit this application. Some additional guidance. There is also some preferences in terms of the review order. So some of the preferences include if you are a nonprofit, let's say like a church, you actually get a preference in terms of the review order in the lottery. So I think that could be to your advantage. There's also some preferences around low-income low-income locations. They call them persistent poverty counties, as well as other types of environmental justice locations. I think the website Brooks referred to on the resource page might have some resources to be able to map that out. So there are actually some preferences around certain project types in this competitive application. As I mentioned, the low-income communities in Category 1 are like the New Markets Tax Credit Census Tracts, and so that is something you need to look at. One thing that we did find out recently was if the project you apply for actually changes in size, either is actually ends up being larger or being smaller, you really got to look at that carefully, because there might be some impacts on your tax credits bonus if you actually end up having a bigger project or smaller projects, and those are indicated there. Just to end, wanted to just highlight some of the items, the documents that you would want to start to gather or organize in order to prepare for the application. There will be a unique control number assigned, and so once you log into that platform, you can apply for that control number, and want to make sure all your documents that you upload have that control number indicated. Part of the application is actually knowing exactly where your project is located, and so there is actually a latitude and longitude requirement that just is up to 5 decimal places, and so That should be easy enough. I know some tools like Google Maps have that where you can just kind of indicate and click and figure out your latitude and longitude. You should know the size of your project, the nameplate. That's important. And any ownership documents showing who the owner of the solar system is. If you have larger projects that have interconnection arrangements, you should have that proper documentation as well as have it organized. And then if you are looking at a category 3 or 4 project where you are sharing the benefits with low-income households or low-income residents, you should have benefit sharing agreements in place. One other important document, kind of a threshold document, is you do have to have your permits for your solar project in hand in order to be able to apply for this. And so there is a section in the application where you are saying you have all the permits ready to go for your solar project. And so that is something that you need to have in hand before you even apply. So I'm going to turn it back over to Rebecca just to finish up the presentation.
So helpful to have this all laid out. Jerome, thank you so much again for putting these all together.
Welcome.
So in terms of financing this, it very often with these type of things, there's a whole cascade of what comes first, and you feel like you get caught in a chicken and egg situation where you need to do this before you can do that, but you can't do that till you do this. So we try to do what we can to help with the financing of that. Very often you will need to have a time where you're pre-funding projects and trying to bridge this income tax credit that's coming back to you. For us, we're very much able to do this. We're set up to do this really easily because we're used to working with churches who are doing capital campaigns to fund capital projects. So to us, the direct pay and the other ITCs coming from the federal government are similar in a lot of ways to a typical capital campaign. We know the money's coming. We don't know exactly how much, and we don't know exactly when, but we do know it's probably coming. So we are really uniquely suited to do a bridge loan for these type of projects. So I really encourage you to reach out to the Cornerstone Fund if you feel like financing could be helpful to you for this. I can assure you that we will work with you and that we will work with whatever your state SREC requirements are and whatever the federal government's going to throw at us. We will find a way to structure loans so that we can get you through the financing gap of getting these programs, getting these projects done. We're, as Jerome states here on this slide, we're, easily able to do a bridge loan for the income tax credit, but also we can handle whatever residual amount is left that needs to be financed when all is said and done. Very often it's simplest to get a loan for the whole entire project amount and then just pay it off in big chunks as these things come in, and including possibly a capital campaign to take care of anything that you're not getting in rebates and energy credits from the state. So we're a resource. Please call us. Don't hesitate to reach out, and we'd be happy to talk through your project with you and see what we can do to help.
Right. Thanks, Rebecca. So yes, our contact information is on the slide here, and certainly reach out to any of us, reach out to Brooks if you have any questions. And I think that'll conclude our presentation today. Thank you.